Warning: this guide features weak 1 strats for the fight Arcadion M2S. Better strats can and will be discovered if they haven't already, so be mindful. Hi guys, and welcome to a Hector lecture guide to the fight Arcadion M2S. This is Honeybee Lovely. Before the fight begins, assign partner positions. I recommend having tanks with ranged, healers with melee. You're going to need to have spread positions for 2 different patterns. This one has the healers and ranged out while we're dodging inwards. And this one, where everyone has to be out, has tank healers left, DPS right. Finally, you'll need clock spots for 1 mechanic at the very end of the fight. I recommend using standard clock spots. The fight starts with a raid-wide, Call Me Honey. Afterwards, a Splash of Venom or Drop of Venom. Splash of Venom will store spreads for later, Drop of Venom will store pairs for later. Here we'll have Splash of Venom cast, so it'll store spreads for later. This buff here signifies something is stored, but won't tell you what, so you have to remember. Now the boss will cast either Tempting Twist or Honey Beeline. Tempting Twist will show first. This is a donut AoE. Make sure you dodge inwards. And then after the AoE goes off, these honey puddles will appear that force all players to dodge out at inner cardinals. If you're spreading, have tank healer left, DPS right. The boss will now cast the opposite Venom mechanic. So since we did Splash first, now it's Drop of Venom, meaning pairs will be stored. We now get the opposite attack, too. Here's Honey Beeline. This is a line AoE through the middle of the arena. Dodge to the side. And the honey puddles mean that you always need to dodge inwards in middle. Soak this while dealing with either the pairs or the spreads. The boss will now cast one of 2 tank busters, either Killer Sting or Stinging Slash. Killer Sting is a double tank buster, targeting the top player in aggro. Soak it with your off-tank. Stinging Slash targets the top 2 players in aggro for a cleaving tank buster. Off-tank needs to be second in aggro, or your top DPS is getting murdered. Have them spread out, as these cleave much wider than they did in normal mode. We now have a raid-wide Honeybee Live first beat, and we transition into the first heart phase. Players will start with either 0, 1, or 2 hearts. These hearts work almost identically to how they did in normal mode. If you get hit with a mechanic, you gain a heart. If you get hit by something you were supposed to dodge, you gain a heart. If you get to 4 hearts this time, you're going to be stunned for what feels like an eternity, and the boss is going to get a stack of the Queen Bee buff. This both heals the boss for about 1%, and also increases their damage for the entire rest of the fight, so avoid this where possible. To start off, we're going to get Center Stage combo or Outer Stage combo. For Center Stage combo, which I'll show first, there's going to be telegraphed AoEs on the ground. Dodge those while also dodging to the center, meaning in because there's a donut at the start. The second hit of this combo will always require you to be out at an intercardinal. The number waymarks are far enough. Finally, you need to rotate now to dodge the other ground AoEs, and since we were in first, we'll be out for the final hit. Outer Stage combo is the exact reverse of this. Start out while dodging the ground AoEs. Get out at an intercardinal. It's always out an intercardinal for the second hit of both combos. And then finally go in while dodging the other set of ground AoEs. The boss will cast Love Me Tender, and towers are going to start to spawn. There will be 11 towers in total, and every time you take a tower, it gives you a heart. Start by prioritizing players with the lowest number of hearts, because by the end of all of these towers, the goal is to try to get it so that every player is on at least 2 hearts. Some players will need 3 hearts. Where possible, leave towers nearer to the boss for tanks and melees, and have healers in range take the ones further away. If you soak these towers correctly, and nobody's been hit by anything else, at the very end, you should have 5 players that are on 2 hearts, and 3 players that are on 3 hearts. Dodge Love Seeker by going out, and then prepare to dodge the slow-moving, annoying hearts from normal mode. Some of these will be spawning middle of the boss and going inwards, some of them will be starting outside and coming towards players. Just dodge them. While you're doing this, you need to look out for Love Me Tender to be cast, because at the end, 1 player with the lowest number of hearts will be targeted for a stack marker. The stack marker divvies up 4 hearts between all the players stacked in it. Any players with 2 hearts should group up together near the boss, take the stack, and then dodge afterwards. Finally, there will be the opposite combo of what you had at the beginning, so if you had Center Stage first, now it'll be Outer Stage. Dodge the combo, and the boss will follow up with Honeybee Finale, raid-wide damage, and we're back into the normal arena. You're going to get a Tank Buster. This will be the opposite one of what you got at the beginning of the fight. And now Alarm Pheromones. Worker bees start to spawn on the outside of the arena and will target line AoEs at players. There are 16 total bees that are going to spawn, and I'm sorry, but there's no good way to dodge this. It is very much you just need to pay attention because of how random the bees are, use your eyes, and dodge the best you can. Two things to make this a little bit simpler. One, don't forget you have knockback immunity. If you start getting in a pinch, pop this so that you will take an AoE, but you won't die because it won't knock you into the wall. And don't forget Sprint is there to help you. However you dodge these, at the very end of it, the boss casts Honeybee Live's second beat, and after more raid-wide damage, we're into the second heart phase. This one starts with players having either 0 or 1 hearts, and it's roll-based, meaning 2 supports will have 1 heart, 2 DPS will have 1 heart. The boss will cast Spreading Love, which is spreads, or Drop of Love, which is pairs. This is going to be stored for later. And just like in Honey Phase, there's a buff to signify something is stored, but you had to have paid attention to the cast bar to know what was stored. To position for this next one, have all your players with 1 heart stack perfectly middle, and your players with 0 hearts can either stack as you see here with supports north, DPS south, or you can actually have all of your 0 heart players just stack together. The boss will cast Love Me Tender, and the 0 heart players are going to get targeted with mechanics. 2 of them get stack markers, 2 of them get puddles. These stacks don't give a vuln, so you can overlap them without issue. Either way, they're divvying up 8 hearts between 4 players, so everybody's going to get 2 hearts when they soak them. Rotate clockwise to dodge the puddles, making sure you stay max melee so you don't clip the players that are on the inside. After 3 puddles, towers appear, but hold fire on these for now. You're also going to get some AoEs targeting 2 players in middle. We'll deal with those in a second. After the 4th puddle, the stack goes off, giving all players in the stack 2 hearts. Those players will continue to rotate, and the rest of the players need to spread out now so they can see are they the ones targeted by the AoEs. The players targeted with the AoEs, in this case M1 and main tank, they're going to just make sure they spread and don't overlap this on anyone else. The other 2 players need to soak towers. These towers can either spawn east-west or north-south. Have your supports take the one that's in north or west, and your DPS take the one that's in south or east. After the towers resolve, the AoEs will go off at the same time, and all players should be on 2 hearts. This is important, because the boss will now cast either Honey Beeline or Tempting Twist. We dodge it like we did before. In this case, it spreads, so all players spread, and as the spreads hit, players get their 3rd heart. Honeybee Finale will do raid-wide damage and cleanse all of the hearts, bringing us back to the normal stage. We get either a splash of venom or a drop of venom, so remember what the cast was and remember what's stored for later. It's going to be a while. There's another Alarm Pheromones cast, and we get bees spawning in this sort of square pattern. Poison Sting will target a random support and a random DPS with a marker. These players are going to drop puddles where they're stood when the cast finishes. They're going to go out. I have the support going out northwest, the DPS going out southeast, but you can have them go out wherever as long as you're on the same page. This is what the pattern of AoEs will look like from the bees, and it's going to repeat, as will the puddles, until every player's been targeted and forced to go out to drop puddles. Since we're going to have to drop 8 puddles around the outside, there is a simple way to make these puddle drops easy. The second bees are going to spawn, and these will either be counterclockwise or clockwise from the original bees. Since these bees that just spawned are counterclockwise, you can just have every player drop their next puddle counterclockwise from the player of their role. So for instance, H1, look where they're dropping their puddle. The next support target is main tank. They're just going to go slightly counterclockwise of that puddle, and they will be in a safe spot and a perfect place to drop their puddle. DPS are doing the same thing on their side. Keep in mind the bees don't have to spawn counterclockwise. If you'd like to use this as your way of spreading them out, you need to pay attention to which way the bees spawn. If you'd rather just wing it, or use another method as a priority, that works too. When you finish dropping all your puddles, group up as roles, with tanks and healers together in the north, DPS together in the south. 1 support and 1 DPS will be targeted with stacks, and you want to stay nice and tight in because there's still AoEs going on from the worker bees, but make sure you're spread out enough that you're able to not overlap these stacks. At the end, you get another tank buster, and now the boss is going to use up the spread or pair it loaded earlier. Here it would be a Honeybee line with spreads. After all that's done, Honeybee Live 3rd beat goes off, and there's raid-wide damage. In this heart phase, every player starts with 0 hearts, but everybody has the debuff that you see over on the left side of the screen. One roll will have 26 seconds, short timer, and one roll will have long timer, 46 seconds. In this case, DPS have the short timer. As this counts down, the boss will cast either Spreading Love or Drop of Love, so pay attention to what's been stored for later. The boss will now cast one of its 2 combos. While dodging this combo, you want to stay within your color. By that I mean, main tank and R1 normally group up at the 1 waymark. They're going to try to dodge this mechanic entirely on red waymarks, either 1 or A. Same thing for off tank and R2, but on yellow waymarks and so on. Dodge the combo as we did before. In, out at inner cardinals, out dodging the second set. You'll see there's some towers, but don't worry about those for now. Instead, the debuff that's on the DPS is about to explode. This is a giant defamation AoE, so they need to go all the way out where they were spread. And all the tanks and healers need to hide all the way middle. This debuff, when it explodes, is going to give a heart to all of the players. And now the tanks and healers need to deal with those towers. Simply go to the tower nearest to your usual corner where you go for partners. At the end of this, everybody's on 1 heart. And now it repeats, but with the other combo. Once again, dodge this entirely in your usual color waymark spot. This time, after the 3rd hit, tanks and healers need to go all the way out where they're spread currently, making sure that their defamations don't clip the DPS who are hiding middle. As soon as they explode, DPS go into the tower. Tower spawns so that there's 1 near every corner. Go to your usual partner spot. Finally, the boss will finish up with either a honeybee line or tempting twist, and this will use up the spread or pairs that was stored earlier. Resolve it as before, and it'll give you your 3rd heart before honeybee finale ends this final heart phase. We get 1 more tank buster before Rodden Heart. Before this cast finishes, make sure that you've spread at your clock spots and you can be just on the edge of the hitbox. This is a very hard-hitting raid wide, so mitigate it heavily. We'll be in a brand new arena, and all players have either an alpha or beta debuff. You don't need to actually pay attention to that. All you need to do is pay attention to your timer. The way these debuffs work is if an alpha and beta both touch, they explode doing raid-wide damage. Wait until you've got about 5 seconds left on your debuff, or until everybody's healed up, and have the 2 players with the shortest timer go in this case, main tank and R1. They go middle and high 5, raid-wide damage goes out, and you get a magic fold. Go back to your spot, and wait. The boss will cast raid wides in between these. Your magic vuln will fall off before this hits as long as you pop it early enough. Wait until you have enough health or until there's about 5 seconds left and have the next 2 players go in. Once again, a raid wide. And now the next 2 players. Every time it's the players who have the shortest timer that go in. Here it's M1 and M2 on 5 seconds left. And after a 3rd raid wide in between, the final 2 players cleanse their buff. You have to cleanse these buffs, otherwise they kill you, but you need to make sure you don't cleanse them too fast, because cleansing 2 while you have the magic vuln up will kill you. When all is done, the boss will cast Sheer Heart Attack, and you've got till the end of the cast bar to kill the boss. Because when it's finished, Honeybee Lovely is going to instantly give all players full hearts, give themselves stacks of the Queen Bee stacking buff, and after a couple of seconds of you dancing around aimlessly, unable to attack the boss, it's game over. Thank you for watching. Hope you found this useful.